pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks everybody for showing up on a nice dry evening. So do we need to move to take that off first?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to have an amendment to the consent agenda to table 4.2. We're going to table 4.2, the audit review tonight. I move that we table 4.2 for, is it going to be next month? Hopefully. To a time to be determined.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Back to the consent agenda. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. 3, hearing of the audience. Danielle, anybody?
No.
3.2. Pat, are you guys up?
I'll make the talk if everybody can hear me okay. I can point now that I have a decent area. Obviously it's wet, been wet for a couple weeks. Our superintendent told me it's just got to quit raining sometime. So start on site work first. Soccer fields, these two areas right here, competition soccer field and practice soccer field. Grading's done, seating's done, fence posts and lights are complete. Once it does dry out, we will start stretching fence. The good news is the posts are in, seating's done. If it doesn't dry out for a while, we can stretch fence during the winter months. So, soccer fields are in pretty good shape. You can see some grass coming up on the slope between the two. That's a good site to hold that over the winter. And there's erosion fabric down too to help that. So, football stadium. Visitor side bleachers are complete. Home side's ready to resume once it dries out. Work continues on the 2 concession stands. The east one, the visitors one's dried in, so we can start some interior work. In the press box on the visitor side it has a roof, it's not quite dried in. Home side concession stand structures up, getting started on the roof structure, but haven't made much progress there the past couple of weeks. We're hoping we can kind of wrap these buildings up in the next 6 to 8 weeks. There's not a whole, being concession stands, there's not a lot of interior finishes that go on. So painting and some casework, some stainless steel counters. Wrap those up. As far as the football field itself, you can see in this picture, we've cleared everything out of the football field and getting the final grading going to start the track curbs, final grade for the turf material itself. So we did get most of it graded out before it started raining, so we should be in pretty good shape to get started on that once it dries out. Tennis courts over here, upper 4 courts up here, 4 courts down here. Asphalt work's complete. We're going to wait till spring to put the actual tennis court surfacing material on it to try and keep it as new as possible, keep it from getting dirty and things like that. So we'll wait until spring to do that. We will go ahead and put the fencing up this fall, this winter, if need be, around the tennis court. The tennis court lighting is complete as well. Softball and baseball diamonds. Two softball fields here, competition baseball, or not competition, practice baseball field, right here in the upper area. You can see the sod infields done. Working to get the outfields complete. Fencing posts are in around those fields, so 4-inch stretch fence there too. Dugouts are dried in. They're close to complete. Have some roof trim and some finishing to do on those. Athletic lighting is complete, installed at the soccer fields, football field, tennis courts, and both softball diamonds. So, work continues at sidewalks, roads, and parking lots. Right now, we're working, you can kind of see there's 2 stretches of curb and gutter going in here. This is the main parking lot for the school, student parking. It's our intent to try and get that in by mid to late November before the asphalt plants close. We thought we had a pretty good shot of it. We'll see now. But we may be able to just put part of it. So, but you know, some winters the asphalt plants stay open until late December, early January. As a rule of thumb, Thanksgiving, they're usually shut down. So, but other than that, we do have asphalt up around backside of the football stadium and coming down this road. We're in a position to asphalt this road and all of this area as soon as it dries out. That was scheduled for the 18th, but I'm probably not going to happen. But, we still have plenty of time to get that in, so I feel good about that. Also continuing work on the sidewalks out at the baseball diamonds and around the tennis court. And we can do that even after the weather turns cold. We can blanket concrete work through the winter on some of that. As far as the building goes, the academic areas, this area, working on drywall work, nearing completion of drywall work in this area. Sanding that area, still taping and finishing over here. Started prime painting today in this area. We'll follow that with ceiling grid, light fixtures, etc. We've ordered the casework for this area, going to be delivered in early December. Also working towards getting some temporary heat by late this month, early November for this entire ring, so we continue finishes throughout the winter. Administrative areas, still working on drywall work in there. Got quite a bit of drywall work left to go, but mechanical and electrical are up in pretty good shape. Commons resource area, working to get the rest of the windows installed in this area. We've got roofing to this point. This is roofs, so working on mechanical, electrical roof in there. It's not quite dry enough for drywall, but hopefully in the next 30 days we'll be to that point. Gymnasium, it's all dried in. MEP roughing continues in the gym, working to get the track structure up, and hopefully we'll start, when we get the MEP rough in above ceiling, we'll start some painting in there in November. Swimming pool, which is this area over here, does not have a roof on it yet. We had to sandblast the steel structure. It gets an epoxy paint to protect the structure from chlorine and the humid environment. So we had to sandblast and epoxy prime that. That is complete. It's ready for roofing. It's supposed to start today, but that got pushed off. But I think later this week, I hope we can get that pool dried in this week. Other areas, the kitchen's got a roof on it. Working on block walls and mechanical, electrical roof in there. Shop and drama areas dried in, kind of the same place the kitchen's at. The music and vocal areas, roof deck's done. I'll be able to get a roof on that in the next week or two. And the auditorium, which is this area right here, we are working on, before we finish decking it, working on the structure for the catwalks and tension grid system. So hopefully in the next 30 days, though, we can get that dried in, have everything under a roof in those areas. Overall, we feel pretty good about the schedule. We've had a good summer going into winter. I think we're in a pretty good position. pretty good shape on site work. So. Here's a photo of a typical classroom in the academic area. As you can see, taping and finishing is complete in this area. It's ready for prime painting. This is out in the corridor. This particular area may help me out. This is a think tank. And the purpose of the think tank.
Small group collaboration spaces. So it's something right outside the classroom. So say a student missed a day of class and they needed to take a test. There's a closed environment right there in their academic area that's suitable for about 4 to 6 people that they can go in and work and be in a quiet, closed environment.
This is the commons area. Looking down and beyond the commons is the resource center. There'll be stainless steel handrail around this area, down into the commons. This is the gymnasium. See the track structure, the bar joist, and the decking coming down here. So we're working. This is one place we can go work when it's raining. We've got steel erection still due on this track, so that's one place that's coming along pretty quickly the past week or so. Another shot of the gymnasium. It's the divider wall between the auxiliary gym and the main gym where the big skypole partition will go. It's a photo in the pool area where they're blasting, sandblasting, and epoxy painting steel structure. That's a photo of the bridge or the tunnel into the courtyard. It's a photo inside the courtyard. The open area right here will get all get glass. That's where the learning stair area is. It's been a great place to get materials moved in and out, but it's time to close it up. So the next couple of weeks that should get closed up. Photo of some roofing going down over the shop and drama areas. This is a photo of the competition soccer field when they were seeding it and grading it. The green material you see is a hydro mulch put down, and we're going to the other half of this photo. This is a picture of the irrigation area, irrigation pump. All of this to the background is the irrigation pond, quickly filling up from what I hear. So I think I mentioned before, you should be able to get most of your irrigation from the pond. If need be, switch over to the municipal water system. It's a photo of the grading going on in the football stadium. This is a picture of the visitors' bleachers, pretty much complete. You can see the visitors' concession stand on the right side, press box towards the left side. There's another photo. So that's pretty much what it's going to look like as far as the bleachers go. Obviously, there'll be some windows here in the press box and these 2 viewing decks.
Hey, Pat, one question I've had is, where's the scoreboard going to be?
Scoreboard is going to be at the north end, south end. So
It's opposite tailgate road.
So the tailgate road, yeah, right, that's,
They can see it.
and then we've got plate cloths.
They'll be able to see.
Both ends. There's pavers. They're not complete. They still need to be inbuilt with the aggregate, but we've got red brick pavers up against the dark block. Another view of the visitors' concession stand. That's a view of the upper tennis court in the background and the tennis court parking lot foreground. And that's a view of the lower tennis courts. You kind of see the steps that go up to the upper tennis courts. Another view of the upper tennis court. That's a photo of the softball field. Ready for seating. baseball field, sod in field, complete in this picture. There's another view of that. See the dugout in the background.
I think that's it, Pat.
I think that's it. Any questions?
I think Megan's got it.
Megan, you got anything?
Just wanted to give you a quick update on some of the other things going on. Sorry about the topping out ceremony today. Got a little wet and soggy, and let me tell you, they do make fun of me when I wear my red polka dotted rain boots out on the site, so glad you guys didn't have to muck through that too. Next one. So as far as FF&E, so right now the school's getting constructed. We're meeting with the teachers and doing department meetings. On the 22nd, we had a general classroom meeting, and we had 6 teachers and 10 students from the high school come to the Hollis Miller office, where we had a variety of samples, and I'll show you a couple pictures of that experience. It was a lot of fun. And on the 3rd and the 9th, Abby and I, the interiors person that's helping with furniture, met with all the different departments and kind of went through and talked about what their wants and their needs are, how they use their space, and how furniture can help with that. So what's next for the furniture? We'll be going back and actually picking real items. We've talked about, different things, trying to find those. And then working with Mona and Danielle and Steve. Those are kind of our leadership team for the furniture endeavor. Just kind of trying to narrow that down and making sure we have options in our budget and the different things. We go to the next slide. So what we did is we brought the 6 teachers and 10 students to our office. They did have homework when they got there. Their homework was to observe and report and talk about, some students talked about group settings, some talked about individual learning, and then we had the teachers saying, what would your ideal classroom, like, dream about it big. So we did some videos trying to get them to really expand their mind, talked about their hopes and their expectations, did a big review of the school to date, which was really fun because the kids really got into that and started asking questions about where's this, how does this work. So it was really fun. And then did a bunch of examples of layouts. So in this meeting we talked about classroom furniture, collaboration furniture, and the teacher plan areas. And some of the questions, does every classroom have to look exactly the same? Can there be 4 different furniture setups, 6? What is the right thing? And how does furniture help limit or facilitate different learning styles? There's a testing environment, there's a collaboration environment, there's that discussion environment. How can the furniture help with those? And then at the end of the day, we had the whole room set up. Everybody was given 2 dots, red dots and green dots. And we did this for chairs, tables, and then we had kind of an all-in-one chair called a node. And so everybody got to vote and go around the room. So if you go to the next slide, you can see what the room's set up as. And I think there were 10 different chairs, 8 desks, and 3 all-in-one kind of node chairs. It was a nice panorama. We had soft seating furniture you can see on the orange and red on the right. Those are more like the collaboration furniture, kind of that soft seating, things kids can move around real easily, so that when they're out in the corridor, they've got some flexibility. During the presentation, every 10 minutes, we had the people stand up, move, pick a different desk. So we had all of our samples out of our architectural library out there so that they could actually test out the chairs, and then at the end of the day, we had a discussion, and people were, I'm a larger person. I don't actually fit very well on this. I don't find this comfortable. I like the wheels on this one. The back flexes on this one. We even had stools that look like little toadstools that have a wiggle bottom. So it's kind of that idea of the balance ball, but it really helps for kids that kind of like to sway and do this motion. Well, it's a little stool that does that, but it doesn't fall over like a exercise ball would. But it kind of gives you that idea that you can kind of wiggle a little bit. And so we talked about all these different things and voted. I think if you go to the next one, keep going, click through, sorry. We gave them a couple different options. A was the traditional desk and chair setup. As you can see, that's not a connected piece of furniture. I know that was a big discussion point. So having a separate chair and desk, but are those desks square? Are they triangle shaped? We showed a bunch of different layouts. You can see on the left there's different furniture configurations. Option B was more of a table and chair setup, so that you have a 2-person table with some chairs. And then option C, they're called node chairs. That's one of the brand names. Other companies make them. It's kind of an all-in-one. You've got wheels, you've got a tablet arm, it can swing right, it can swing left, it can swing out of the way. There's a place underneath for some storage of materials. So we really asked them, these are 3 different kinds of setups. How do you see yourself using this? Every pod is made with 2 science rooms and 7 general classrooms. And so in the end of the day, we asked, what's the right configuration? You know, do we need to do 7 classrooms with A furniture, 7 with B, or a combination? And it was actually quite interesting that they said they'd like 2 with the A furniture, 2 with the B furniture, and 3 with the C furniture. And talked about, you know, math, when they're doing individual testing, the A furniture might be better. But for some of the English teachers that are doing the big conversations or talking about doing reports or speeches, they really liked the individual chairs that they could kind of roll around and very quickly go into kind of a circle setting or go into small groups. So these were a lot of those discussions we had. So now Mona and Danielle get the fun part of talking through every little small detail, what has arms, what doesn't, what has rolly things on the bottom, and how all that works. We even got Mr. Dyke involved. He's very impressed. He learned a new word. And tables and chairs, they can flip up so that they nest together and store. So he's been very impressed with himself, talking about chairs and furniture that nests. So it holds and condenses in the corner. One of the other things we talked about was collaboration spaces. If you click through, I think there's some other pictures here. You know, what is soft seating? We don't want to give kids big lazy boy recliners to sit out there, but we do want it to be something that they can sit in and enjoy, you know, feel like you're reading a book at Starbucks. Talked about different learning things. People sit in groups, they need to have conversations. They also have more of that platform where they're speaking out to a congregation or an audience. And then you've got the idea of, people do a lot of individual learning, so how can we facilitate all these different things with different furniture options? And you can kind of see the different variations, what works, what didn't. And then the last space we talked about was the teacher plan area. And as much heartache as this has brought up in other meetings, I think we're finally getting people to understand the usefulness of this area. We gave them a couple options, and this was one they really liked. We have a lot of storage built in along the side, and then every teacher has a desk that has kind of a long rectangular table, and then they can either anchor it at their storage spaces so that they have an individual desk, or they can roll those tables right to the middle and create kind of that conference table. So maybe I have a couple projects and I need some more table space. I can steal somebody else's desk, make a big table space and work, and then put it back at the end of the day and take it back to my home station on my storage on the spot. And this really, I think, helps kind of calm some people's nerves about what these teacher plan areas would be. They're not little cubicles, you're not hiding. The space is made so teachers can collaborate together. And then, the last thing, we are not forgetting the middle school. This last week, I sat down with Dr. Bagby and Carrie and really talked about kind of expectations and where we're going with this. We're doing a kickoff meeting tomorrow with the FDT team, the facility focus team for the middle school, to kind of do a recap of what we talked about 2 years ago. That was a long time ago. Where are we? We don't want to throw all that work away, but do we need to revisit it? Has anything changed in the last 2 years with technology or how you teach? So let's revisit it and see where we're at and start kicking that off again. So there's kind of our tentative schedule. We'll be doing construction documents over the winter. So we'll be meeting with teachers for October, November, and really starting to get heavy into drawing in December. Any questions? I know a lot of the teachers and the students really enjoyed the trip down to the office, and I think they found it very beneficial. So if you ever get the chance to talk to any of them, please do. I think they really enjoyed it. Matt Stevenson was one of the ones that got to come down and have fun, so it was a good time. I think the kids, they got there and were very tentative at first, but by the end of the day, they were asking all kinds of questions, and it was a lot of fun. Very informational.
I love the fact that you have a lot of different things because I think that makes the kids more comfortable. But I'm wondering how tough is it going to be to replace these things, because eventually, with kids using them constantly, are we going to be able to replace them with like items so it doesn't look hodgepodge?
A lot of the items that you've seen up there are from furniture people that have been around for quite a long time, and none of those are really new to the market products. So there's things that have been around and been tested, and so we do a lot of the triangle desks and a lot of those tables in a lot of their schools, and they haven't had trouble replacing them lately. So.
Any other questions? Big Pat, thank you. Moving along, 4.1, the application and certificate for payment. Getting rather large still.
Yeah.
3.1, that was nice.
I move that we accept the payment application as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The audit is gone, removed, tabled for another day. 5, did everybody get a chance to review the reports from the different departments? Anybody have any questions? Same with the 6, curriculum and instruction, the administrative reports. Everybody get a chance to review those? Anybody have any questions, concerns? 7.1.
I do want to make.
Fire away.
I think the fall sports are going to make it hard on the spring sports to keep up with the league rankings. The 1s and 2s look pretty good.
Nice.
That was kind of nice to see.
A lot of good things going on there, absolutely. 7.1, Lansing After School Village.
This isn't new, it's continuance. We
Just roll over.
need the board to approve it each year.
I move that we accept the grant award for the Lansing After School Village for older youth in the amount of $7,105 as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7.2, Special Education.
It's been over 10 years since I've had Title VI on a board agenda. It's typically it goes to the co-op, the sponsoring district. And what it is are other monies that are funneled from the feds to the state and then back to local LEAs for special ed. So this is going to be one of those things you're going to see every year to approve. It has to be approved for us to get it back to the state and get the money. So every year, and probably September rather than October. We're a little bit new and at doing this ourselves, so we're running a little bit late, but the money's not in jeopardy. That's the good news.
Still within the time frame.
So, but there's a lot of recreational reading here, and
Yes, there was.
So, but I'm far from an expert on this document. It's one of those things that to get the money, we have to put it on the board agenda every year, and hopefully we get all the money they say we're going to get.
Do you have any questions on anything in there? I move that we approve the Title VI allocations as presented.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7.3, the site council members. That's pretty self-explanatory there. I move that we approve the site council members as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7.4, DECA.
Alright, so this December we are looking to take a trip to Minneapolis, Minnesota for a Central Region Leadership Conference. We miss a day of school, be a Friday through Sunday, come back on Sunday, looking to fly, not drive. Kids are going to get to go to a bunch of sessions on leadership, how to incorporate DECA more into their lives and get a better understanding of DECA. And this year's competition also conference has a competition aspect. So it's the first time they've ever had a regional competition. So the kids will get to compete against some kids from Michigan, Minnesota, all the other central region states. And so that'll be the first experience some of these kids have had as well. Also, it's going to be a good exposure for Alyssa, who is currently our state president and just got approval from the Kansas Board of Directors for DECA to run for a national office in the spring. And so we're hoping also to get your guys' blessing that we're behind her in doing that. So she'll get to network with a bunch of people from the Central Region who will be the ones who are voting for that office come May when we go to nationals or internationals in Orlando. So the cost, I believe, is $468 per kid, and that includes hotel, lodging, all that stuff. So that's what we're looking for that.
How many we're looking to go?
Looking at,
Like
it's
number
the
of students, I guess.
number
right?
of students would be, the ratio for Central Region is 8-to-1.
8 to 1.
So.
Anybody have any questions? I think that's a very great opportunity for you
She'll
to
take
get
any
it.
questions you have for her as well.
She'll take any questions?
I don't have any. Well, I move that we approve the DECA Central Regional Leadership Conference to Minneapolis, Minnesota on December 5th through 7th, 2014 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Good luck.
Thank you.
Seven point five, board goals and strategic planning.
We placed this on the agenda this evening as mostly an information item, maybe planting some seeds for discussion and so forth. One of the things that we're doing this year is we're trying to present information about various things in the school district that the board typically doesn't get exposed to. And to kind of kick off that series, I'll start with board goals and strategic planning this evening. Next month, we're planning on transportation, where you can see some of the new technology and those kinds of things that we're doing. But as I started thinking about strategic planning, one of the first things that occurred to me, and I talked to a lot of people, and the first thing that happens is when I talk about strategic plans or strategic goals, I just out of the blue ask people, can you define that for me? And most stumble with it. But basically, having some kind of strategy to get where you want to go. And if you can kind of remember that. I mean, there's lots of strategies and so forth on a daily basis. How do we get this child to learn this? We're always strategic in our attempts at doing things and accomplishing things. So what I thought I'd do is I threw this in, I edited it a little bit, so you'll notice that the name of the file says revised in August or whatever. They're old, and they're from pre-Bagby. So that means over 10 years ago on some of that. But I wanted you to see kind of what boards used to talk about and what they think about. I took out some of the things that were rather irrelevant and so forth. And then the other thing that I thought would be interesting, and you all are aware of this because the board's goals are always my goals. And generally when we're doing performance evaluations with me, we're talking about goals and how we're doing with them. And so I wanted to throw this back in, and it's just kind of a reminder. You've seen these before. Here at the top are the ones that when we did our KASB strategic planning type workshop, we came up with these top 4. I wanted you to kind of revisit that just a little bit. One-to-one technology, curriculum opportunity expansion, continuity and an evaluation program tool, update, ongoing facility plan. The numbers beside it depict the numbers of votes among our group, and that's how they were ranked. The other thing I wanted you to do is go clear back to 2004 and just kind of remember that one of the goals back then, about 11 years ago, was for me to determine organization structure and look at the central office specifically back then. So that was, when you think about that, that kind of gives you a systemic approach to goal development, where we've been, how we got to where we are, and so forth. And if you go through that, the formatting gets messed up every time I open the file, but you can kind of see all the things that we've done and accomplished for the last 10, 11 years. It's quite the list. And I've had I've been very fortunate to work with good boards because honestly, I can't get anything done without the board on that. So, that being said, I thought, well, the other document too is, this is the one that we produced last year. So it talked a lot about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And then in here, what I did is, I gave you some idea. We only had the long-term focus and some of the action steps listed. And what I did is I made a few notes over here in the last two columns about what's measurable and additional comments about kind of where we're at, where we're headed. So thinking about all of that, one of the things that occurred to me is that we don't talk a lot about how we're going to do it. And one of the board members will say, you know, we got to improve our communication in the community. Well, what does that mean? Well, we kind of know what that means, but how do you do that? How do you improve your communication with the community and so forth? And so I started kind of categorizing things. I always start by categorizing things, trying to put things in quadrants. Because remember, and Dr. Whitlow knows me pretty well, but I'm a systems type thinker. I put everything into a system. Everything has a cause and effect, and everything repeats itself continuously. So I started categorizing about all these things that, you know, how do I put it in a nutshell and depict that in a one slide? And these are some of the things I came up with. This isn't totally inclusive, but these are big chunks to look at. So then I took those chunks and I started thinking about, okay, how do you build a system out of those and put what's really important as kind of the focus in front of all of those big chunks that we're always talking about and focusing on. Here, you know, we're always talking about communications and community relations, but how does it fit? And so we have these things that we know and we can all agree that are important to us, and we know that athletics and activities are important to us and our students. And we had a great, you know, a trip coming up to Minneapolis with Mr. Meyer. Curriculum and technology. It's always on the forefront of everything we do. But notice how this thing spins. So don't think that this is attached to this. This thing's always moving. And these things are always affecting it and being affected by it. So assessments, career and college readiness, that's a big part of what we do. This one it's a development stage. And remember, this is discussion, okay? But service, ethics, character, and safety. Those are big chunks that we're always talking about. We're talking about them every year at the federal and the state levels and also at the local level. So we kind of give you some models to look at, depict what it is that we're talking about. So then I wanted to take it a step further. And this is what I like to tell people that big school districts look like. And I worked in Wichita for a while, and they had a big building just for maintenance. And that's where employees were fixing vacuum cleaners and floor scrubbers. And one department was nothing but 2 or 3 ex-band directors. All they did was fix the school district's musical instruments all day long in an area. They were big. And that's okay. I mean, that's what they functioned. And I think some of those old band directors like doing that more than they like band directing, some of that stuff. And then now here in the middle, Dan made me put this in here because he didn't want me to forget about students. You know, because students, that is our focus. So there's the 4 quadrants that I just mentioned. These are the things, you know, they're always moving. One of the things that I'd like for you to hang on to, the thought, is that in the last 10 years, now we're higher than 30% in some areas, but approximately 30% growth in all categories in the last 10 years. So think about that for a second. When I arrived, we were around 1,800 students. Today we're pushing 2,700 students, okay? Look at the teachers, the number of teachers. Now adding special ed even increased that even more. We've added lots of teachers and case social workers and those kinds of things through the years. Now we've added 30% more in special ed teachers. We've gotten bigger. Our budget's 30% larger than it was 10, 11 years ago. So it's an approximate number. I'm just using it because it's it's a good constant to use. So with that growth, one of the big questions I had was, do I want to look like this as we get bigger? And I can't speak for the board, but my answer is pretty much unequivocal. No, I don't want to look like that. So then I took it a step further. I kept Dan's students in the middle. And I thought, well, okay, what do we look like today? And if you look at our business data and human resources, we've got a big chunk of what we do on a day-to-day basis right there. We have facilities, grounds, and transportation. We have teaching and learning. And we're heavy over here, but this isn't bad. It's just out of alignment. Because what happens is we keep growing, this keeps getting heavier, these things get continually placed on the back burner. The system's not working real well on that. It's done us well, it does good, and I have to tell you that in '08 when the budget cuts hit, we had people that stood up and did a great, fantastic job for us. They took on the jobs of 2 or 3 people. And that's, to me, that one's unequivocal as well. So that's kind of where it became. I still think that one of the reasons why we hear communications and community relations, though, is because we're not quite aligned. So then, to get that in alignment, it would look more like this. I call it an axis-based symmetrical formation. Some people, Dan likes to call it the atom, and he makes me keep that nucleus right there in the middle with the students. This is what I would hope that we would look like if I could get everything aligned and so forth. So when we talk about our goals and our strategies for obtaining those goals, one of the first things that we have to look at is infrastructure. And when we cut people from all over the district, or mostly at the district office, and some other clerical and that kind of stuff in the buildings, we're still very proud to remind people that while everyone else was cutting teachers, particularly in our county and across the state, we were adding teachers. We did well when the '08 thing happened. We cut a district level assistant superintendent type. We didn't hire the assistant high school principal that we've needed probably now for 5 years, and those kinds of things. So I wanted to put this on there, and I'll give it to you later as a reminder. Most of this is for you to start thinking about, but the priorities as I see them right now is that we have to have an assistant high school principal. I'm after instructional leadership, technology integration, and career readiness.
So we're going to have 2?
Pardon me? 2
assistants?
Well, we have 1 now, and he's mostly behaviors and those kinds of things. Okay. Business manager, let me tell you what's happened is some larger school districts, I don't think we need to look at larger school districts our size and decide that our model needs to look like them. But I've had a couple of people that are planning on running for the board this spring. And one of them asked me a pretty pointed question. He's been over to Bonner Springs and Baser, and he said, why are you so skinny? And his word was, your staff is very thin. And he said, I don't understand how you're doing that. Well, I had to give him a history lesson, going back to 2008, and how the money cut. But our goal at the time, and the board's goal, was to keep our teachers. And that's what we did. So we need things, there's quality assurances, and there's also checks and balances in a system when you look at staffing it. You can't build a network without an infrastructure. You just can't do it. And our most valuable resource in school business is people. And we're going to need some people to make this happen. And so I know that's a big need. We added an assistant principal at the elementary. We have 2 at the middle school, a principal and an assistant principal. So that part, the business manager part, here's what's happening. We increased all the personnel by 30% plus. So now, right now, we're having to chase that little life insurance thing that we decided to give to everyone. We're still chasing forms on 50 people. Those kinds of things are what would fall in a human resources department. So we're going to need to design a department that encompasses all those human resources pieces, oversees the finance, looking at personnel, student data, and one of the big things for me is procurement procedures and control. Right now, I have too many people that I can't keep track of making decisions about procurement on a daily basis. Now that's okay because we have good people, but we're getting bigger, and now that's starting to conflict among itself. I mean, I have one person that uses this company, another person that's using this company, and I need something central, more central, manager type that will say, pull that together and maybe save money and those kind of things. So that's part of it. I'm not going to go lots of details with this. Assistant Superintendent of Facilities, Grounds, and Transportation. We need to oversee and manage our facilities. Now, I probably don't have to tell you after you looked at the aerial map of the new high school that in fact facilities is also increasing 30%. And then when you throw in the renovations for moving intermediate school to the middle school, fixing up this old intermediate school over here, doing links and so forth, that we're growing facility-wise, grounds-wise. It's going to take lots of central energy and focus to keep all of this in check and to keep it in line. We're in a third year or so of transportation. Buses usually are on a rotation. And one of the things that I need help with is somebody monitoring. Jimmy's doing a great job. Don't think any of this is saying anybody's doing a bad job. But I need more data. And I want to know what engines are getting the best gas mileage. I want to know which body style is enduring those rough routes on gravel roads and those kinds of things. We can get lots of anecdotal information. I can talk to mechanics, but we need to pull this in. We need to pull it in and look at schedules for maintenance, schedules for bus repair, all of those things. So that's kind of some ideas there. Then we get into supplemental and support staff. And I wanted to throw this in because I've talked about three major big positions there. But the other side of that is we're going to need another data clerical type person. We're going to need a payroll clerk. We're going to need another maintenance person. And when that high school opens, you're adding more facilities. We're going to need 6 to 7 more custodial staff. New renovations of old high school and intermediate school is a big factor in some of that. Technology support, this is one of the things. Dan and I are doing a lot of talking about instructional coaches. And if you remember the goals, I've popped them up over there. You know, I talked about communications, but did you remember the one-to-one technology? That's going to take a lot of support for our instructors and those kinds of things. So that's a lot of information. Wanted to throw it at you to let you digest it, to process it, to look at it, to think about it. We're not asking for a vote or approval or anything like that today. I wanted to give you some thought patterns. Here's what I don't believe in. I do not believe in what I call the seagull approach for these kinds of things. Person comes in, they give you all that expertise, we call it dropping their load, they fly off. We don't get a continuum of discussion about it. So I think chunks. We do little chunks at a time. Things you can think about and then ask questions about. Ideas that we'll get from you about, hey, I think you're missing this. You know, that's how we team, getting more and more synergistic type approaches to the problems. One of the big questions, here's the first question that some people may already be thinking, and some people will ask you in the community, can we afford this? That's the number one question. Anything new, as you grow, can we afford? I'm here to tell you, you can't afford not to do it. Because these things, when you look at business manager and assistant superintendent, both those positions will pay for themselves that first year. My first year here, we saved $250,000 to $500,000 just looking at personnel patterns. When you start pulling in, looking at vendors, looking at what we're spending and so forth, you'll start saving money. Plus, the big question I have is, we're not doing performance evaluations on a whole bunch of people. You know, the professional licensed people we have to by statute, but there's a lot of people out there not getting evaluated properly. And that's not fair to them, because later on when things are going wrong, what have we done to help them? You know, that kind of thing. That's one example. Everybody deserves, even though I don't believe in them, and Dan will tell you that, everybody deserves a job description. You know, if nothing else, to give them a good idea of what the job is. And they also deserve a handbook, you know, to read and to learn about their job and how things fit with benefits and those kind of. We're not getting those things done. We can't get those things done on a skeleton crew. But we did save money, and we did save teachers. So don't forget that part. Don't go to the negative. I'll end by telling you the other thing I told the 2 board candidates when they campaigned. And this is what I sensed in the last campaign. If you campaign on a bunch of negative things, our community takes that personal. And what I suggested to both of them is that you walk in campaigning wanting to be a part of the celebration of how well we're doing. Because I got to tell you, we're doing great. And we're doing a lot of good stuff. But if we're going to get high performance levels, and if we're going to get greater, we're going to have to do some things.
When you're doing this, can you sit down with the people that are already being worked to death and let them help you? Because I know there's people who probably want to do certain things, and
Yeah.
if you could kind of rework that, it might be an opportunity for some of the people who've been carrying the load
Yeah.
to come up with a more sensible approach. And they probably know more about what they're doing than we do.
And I'm a firm believer in growing my own. And I love people moving, not always moving up, but moving to jobs that they would more
Yeah.
desire and those kind of things. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Whitley, you surely have a question or two.
Oh, fine.
No. Okay. I was going to make this half the time if Jeff hadn't influenced him to cancel the ball game tonight. So with that ball game canceled, I know I talked your ear off, but think about this and give it some thought, because we're going to chunk it and revisit it for the next few months.
Okay.
And I'll keep bringing more to you as I talk to the people
Yeah.
and get more ideas about it, what this will look
Because I
like.
bet there's a lot of good ideas floating around out there. We just haven't had the manpower to do it.
Yeah.
Specifically, I'm thinking about little things like reminding teachers when their certificates might be expiring,
Oh,
and sitting down and talking to people that are a couple of years from retirement. Now, this is what you need to, you know, there's little touches that years ago we used to do that we don't do now.
Oh.
And I think it would make for a better work situation if we kind of picked up some of those threads.
Section 8. About how long?
I'm going to do about 15.
15. Okay. I move that we move into executive session at 7:55 for 15 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel matters and matters affecting students.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? 8.2, resignations and retirements. I move that we accept the resignations and retirements as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 8.3, I move that we approve the appointments and transfers as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 8.4, I move that we approve the supplemental positions as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That was 8.5, I move that we approve the out-of-district students as presented.
Second.
I missed it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I forgot to read those. 8.6, substitute teacher list. I move that we accept the substitute teacher list as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. 8.7, early graduation requests. I move that we approve the early graduation request as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And last, we had a 8.8 on there. I move that we approve the letter, request from Ms. Schwann's as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Lastly, any other discussions before?
Okay, there's a gala coming up,
Yeah.
that's just a little reminder. And what we'll try to do, since we missed the, I keep calling it topping off, but a topping out type ceremony. We'll try to schedule something in the future, get you guys out there. Hopefully with better weather and let you see the inside of this building and so forth. You're getting good pictures of the outside. Today I sent you 5 or 6 pictures that Noah in his pilot training took.
Yeah.
And then one of them I sent was Dan. And you got to see Dan on his airplane rides. Do you remember Bullwinkle? He wears this thing. Anyway, if you get a chance, ask Dan to model that for you. They're pretty good. And it takes Dan a couple of days to recuperate after he takes one of those airplanes. You want to comment about it, Dan?
I just always feel like I've ridden a roller coaster for a day and a half. Yeah, I'm better now, but it did take me a while.
So you're not the pilot?
Take it.
Are you the pilot?
Oh, no. I'm an unwilling rider.
Okay, I'm willing.
10th of November, our next meeting.
Yeah.
There's a spaghetti feed that day over at the elementary school. Just FYI, in case you guys are hungry before we have our meeting.
Oh, good. So anyway, remember the gala. Neneva's working very hard and all of her boards and volunteers and so forth. And then tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in this room, we'll be blessed by, hopefully by both candidates, Bradford and Johnson. And they'll have questions here, they'll ask them, you can meet them and see what their views are politically and those kinds of things. So in this room, 7 o'clock. And Deborah Hutton's going to bring treats. Yeah, she is.
Is she really?
I don't know. I don't know that for sure. So if she doesn't, let me know, Deborah, and I'll bring some. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. President.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.